Hey harmonizers, it's time for our first leading session with our little black Mustang. So he has a halter on and now we're going to be doing his leading. And he's a little bit worried about things, but for the most part, he's so friendly. Like this horse is probably the most friendly of the Mustangs I've ever had. I don't know, him and Kaibu, one of my Mustangs from the past, they're very kind of similar. Kaibu may be a little bit more easygoing and maybe a little bit more brave than this guy, but both of them so friendly and he really wants to be a part of things. So this is clipping on the lead rope and just getting close to him there. You could see as I was approaching him, he moved away a little bit. So that's going to be something that we're going to work on in the future. And today, what we're doing is that first leading. So this is our 4-year-old gelding from Choke Cherry, Utah, that we just picked up in Tennessee. And he's progressing super quickly because he is very food motivated and he really likes the grass. And that makes everything go a lot faster. And here I'm just trying to get him to reach out, touch my hand, be a little bit more comfortable with me. And so because he wasn't super ready yet there, I didn't actually attach the lead rope. So we're going to try again here with approaching, trying again. I wanted to get some more grass and make sure that we were using lots of rewards to attach the lead rope and make sure that he wasn't going to be too upset by that. I always want to try to make sure that the horses have a really good experience with the things that I'm doing. So you can see he's getting to eat lots of grass there. And when I attach the lead rope, I want it to be no big deal at all. And so you can see I've got the lead rope on there and he just knows he's getting lots of grass. And as time goes on and he gets more comfortable with the things I'm doing, then we're going to use less and less rewards. So just because I'm using lots of grass now doesn't mean that I'm going to be picking buckets of grass forever. It just means that right now we're using lots of rewards and we're trying to create this desire in him to just want to try because everything just happens really nicely for him. It's kind of like in kindergarten, you want to encourage the kids to like school and to try in school, and so they get stickers and gold stars, and they have like little charts where they can, when they complete their work, they can put little stickers up with their names or check off, and they can see their progress, and you just want them to feel really good about learning and that whole process. And that's what I'm doing here for him is I want him to think of coming to school with me, with Lindsay and Harmony Horsemanship, that it's a really happy time. It's a fun time for him to be there. And so you can see he kind of starts to come over to me and then he goes to go back over to the hay. And so I hold on to the rope there. And although he doesn't figure out that he's supposed to turn and come over to me, he at least understands that he's supposed to do something and back up. And this is a little bit the downfall of having the nylon halter on him over a rope halter or a fusion halter, but it's easier to halter a horse with a nylon halter or like a breakaway halter when you're haltering for the first time because you can kind of hold it open for them and they can slip their nose through it and then you can slip it over their ears. So that's why he has this particular halter on him. But once we get some of this established, I'll be switching him over to a rope halter or a fusion halter so that way it's a little easier for him. And you'll notice the snap is not done up on the side there. And that's because after I put the halter on and he was rubbing around and didn't really like it, as you guys saw in the last video, he broke the snap on that. So it's, I mean, it's meant to be breakable so that way he doesn't break his face, but he breaks his halter instead. So the halter stayed on, which is great. But the snap broke. And so now I'm going to have to put on a different halter and kind of work with that. So here I'm just working on some touching and want to make sure that he can be close to me. And then I'm starting to work on touching on his face a little bit more because I do want to put a rope halter on him. And I could use a rope halter or I could use a fusion halter. I'm going to put a rope halter on him because that's what I had handy and available to use. So I'm going to put that rope halter on him and I'm going to try to do it as respectfully as I can of his thresholds. And he's an interesting guy, even though he's really friendly and, wants to try and really loves the grass. He's still unsure about things. And so here what I'm doing is I'm trying to kind of reach over his neck a little bit, and I'm trying to pass the rope halter end to my other hand, which can be surprising for them. And so for him, it's surprising because it's like, oh no, there's something on the other side of my neck. And so he actually just trots away and he jumps the hay feeder and ends up in the pen with the other horse, because I'll show you when I turn the camera, the pen has the round bale feeder kind of separating them. So this kind of shows you the other angle. So he legit just like ran around the corner and jumped over into the other pen with the other horse. So that was no big deal. Like, I just opened up the gates and brought him back over. And now we've got the rope halter on. So instead of focusing on trying to get the footage filmed, I just kind of focused on following him and haltering him where he wanted to be haltered. So that ended up being off camera because his little pen that he's in is a weird L shape. So he's either in the shelter where I was filming before, where my camera was set up, and then I ended up putting the halter on this side. And then I realized and moved my camera over so you guys could see his leading area here. So this is his first leading now that we've got the rope halter on. Or I shouldn't say, I guess, first leading, because we had the rope attached on the nylon halter. So this is his first leading with the rope halter, which will be a little more secure on him than the breakaway halter that he had on before. And we're just doing some pressure and release. And some people, like the true positive reinforcement people that only do positive reinforcement, would be like, you're not supposed to use any pressure. You're using negative reinforcement. And I get that. I'm using negative reinforcement right now because I'm doing pressure, and then when he gives, he gets the release. And my comeback to that is, I think it's good for horses to learn some pressure and release, because if he steps on his halter, I don't want him to panic. I want him to know how to give to pressure as a way of communication, because that's how most of the horse world works. And it's not a bad thing to understand, okay, if you feel pressure pulling you forward, you should give to that pressure. Or if you feel pressure on your side, you want to move away from that pressure. Those are good things for horses to understand how to do. And they already move away from rhythmic pressure. So it's just a matter of getting them to learn to follow a feel of the rope, which will also help for riding and following a feel of the rein. So all of these things are going to help the horse. And I just try to do it in a really respectful way. And so you can see, he gets a little bit upset and he's, moving his head around because he's not sure what he's supposed to do. And that's just part of the learning process, to be like, I don't know what to do. But generally, he's already wanting to follow me because I've got the grass there. And so he's eager to come over and get that. And then I'm just adding in that little bit of pressure. And when he comes forward, he gets a little release. And if he does a good amount of steps, then he's going to get some grass as he comes over to me. And you can see there, like, I just hold the rope and offer that positive reinforcement. You can see one of the other Mustangs there is watching eagerly in the pen. She's like, are you going to jump over here again and get your rope all tangled up around over here? Luckily, everything was all good. And the nice thing about using these round pen panels to divide out for training, things like that, is everything's very movable. And if something really bad really did happen, they would just fall apart. And some of the pieces are tied with binder twine, so that way they all have breaking points and not going to be super dangerous for the horses. And we're just working on teaching him how to give to that feeling. He's doing amazing. Like, he's doing really, really well. I'm definitely loving this little guy. So thinking of some different name ideas for him, he is a super friendly horse, and definitely want to name him something that's maybe meaning friendly, because he's just really eager to come over and say hi and get that grass. It doesn't mean that he's super brave, because he's still a little bit wary of being touched everywhere. And definitely, you saw with the rope halter going around on the other side, like, he definitely still has reactions sometimes and isn't always, super confident, but he's very friendly and very eager to try. And so the way he's standing right now shows you he's very defensive. The way he's kind of got his legs splayed out in front, that suggests that, like, okay, like, I'm here, but I'm not totally okay with the program. and kind of adjust the way he's standing there as I'm coming over on his right side. So you guys remember with Pretzel, we needed a whole session to just be able to go over on that right side. And for him, he definitely prefers me to approach on that left side, but he's pretty agreeable to me being on that right side. Like he's not as upset the way Pretzel was, where we had to do like a whole process of getting him settled over there. So I'm just working on touching on that side, and you can see he's pretty good with that. Just come over and touch, and he's standing a little bit defensively, a little bit unsure, but overall he's like, okay, like, yeah, like you can pet me on that side. So he's doing really well, and definitely one of the easier Mustangs that I've had the opportunity to work with, which is great because I've definitely had my fair share of difficult Mustangs. And so it's nice to have a horse that's a little bit easier to work with. And I'm pretty excited to see how he does. I definitely get the feeling that this friendly guy could be either a really good lesson horse or just somebody who's really quiet horse. He's not necessarily as brave as Pretzel is, so maybe we'll have to kind of see how that evolves as we do more training. It's so hard to judge them in the beginning because, they're learning to trust people, and as they trust people, they start to trust the world around them a lot more, and their confidence can just grow exponentially. But what we know for now is that he's just really eager about people, and so that to me means that maybe he'd be the type of horse that is okay with many different people. And sometimes that can be the difference between what makes a good lesson horse and what doesn't, is some horses like one person or like maybe a couple people, but aren't necessarily okay with lots of different people coming over to them and doing things with them. Whereas this guy seems to be very friendly, and he will take grass from pretty much anybody through the fence. I'm the only one that's going in the pen with him at this time, but lots of other people have been feeding him grass through the fence, and he thinks it's great. He's totally okay with that. Whereas some of the other horses, they will take grass through the pen from other people, but they can be a little bit more cautious about it, or they won't for the first couple days. Whereas he's just like, you got grass? I'm coming over. And he's pretty eager beaver about that. So here we've worked a little bit on that leading, and now that he's learned to give to that pressure a little bit, working on that touching a little bit more on both sides, and he's doing super awesome with this first session. So we're going to be wrapping up his first session pretty soon here in a little bit. Want to make sure we can come back and touch, and you can see as I start to go towards his hip area, he wants to back up, and he's like, oh, could you actually stay in front of my face where I can see you? So I just politely correct that by bringing him forward, and then I just say like, yeah, I want to try touching that little area again, please. Reaching over, and you see I don't stay there. I don't try to cause a reaction. Some people are like, I'm going to touch you wherever I want to touch you, and they ignore the horse saying, I'm not ready for that. So I want to be really respectful of those thresholds. I hope you guys enjoyed watching.
Remember to subscribe and check out harmonyhorsemanship.com for even more learning.